I am now the proud father of three, and I am now proud to say that I've witnessed three home births. So shout out to my amazing wife, Lauren, for birthing our children. And I did my mini meditation. I was thinking about what am I going to do for my solo episode, and it just came through really strong. It's like home birth. It's like, okay. So what's interesting to me to share about that? Well, it's insanely niche. And again, forgive me, I haven't got specific data to point here, but the amount of Australian kids that are born at home is absolutely minuscule as a percentage. And what's interesting is when you dig into the additional data around this, you have to ask why. And so there was a lady called Rhea Dempsey. She's got some great books. Oz has read them, and we did a course of hers. And she's a doula. And we did a course in Melbourne. And that was actually before my second daughter was born and after the first. So we'd already done one home birth when we went to her workshop. But she showed us lots of data that explains how home birth is as safe as, if not safer, than a hospital birth. And I would just like to share some of the reasons why that really makes sense to me and some of the benefits of exploring this. So anyone out there that's thinking of having a family or about to have another child, like definitely look at this. The reason we started getting into it was because Ruby was born July 2020. So COVID was kind of going off all over the place. Those earliest phases, we just didn't know what the hell was going on. And slowly but surely, the veil kind of fell. But in Melbourne, at least, it was like, the partner's not allowed in the hospital for, to be part of the birth. And then it was like, but the partner is now. And then the partner isn't. And it wasn't clear. And so what was very obvious to us was actually we're out of control, by being in this environment that is the hospital. Like, we don't know what we're going to get told and what might happen. What other options are there? And it turned out there's a community of private midwives that you can pay who come to your house. And we ended up having a bunch of appointments with some midwives, decided on a team. And it's basically just then a waiting game. And so I think Ruby was born 10 or 12 days past the due date at home, mammoth labor. There was a point where we actually thought, oh my God, Loz is so tired. This baby's not coming out. The baby was the wrong way around, and it transpired she had a huge amount of urine still knocking around, and it made it really difficult to give birth. And I left the room, and the lead midwife left the room, and I was like, shit, I haven't packed the hospital bag. My one job. It's like we'd done something called shared care, so we knew that we were going to have a home birth. But if something was to go wrong, there was a obstetrician on call that could meet us in a hospital nearby. And so it was like the decision was made, okay, we've got to go to hospital. We've been doing this for too long. It's like labor started at, let's say, midnight on a Friday night, and we were still going 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. I left the bedroom. The lead midwife left the bedroom. I'm like frantically running around trying to get the dog to take a pee on the verge outside, trying to pack all the essential things that I was supposed to have packed in the hospital bag days before. And this amazing thing happened where, and in hindsight, we think that perhaps Lauren's connection with the lead midwife wasn't strong enough, and she didn't trust her. She didn't completely give up to her. But midwife number 2 stepped in, and something shifted, and Loz then went into the latter part of her labor, in which you just completely lose control, and your body just takes over. It's unbelievable to watch. And my daughter was born at home about 5 p.m. Saturday. And before you know it, we just had a small baby in her arms at home. I ordered a pizza and a bottle of wine, and it was just the most beautiful experience in that we were completely cocooned in our own little nest, and we loved it. And so as soon as we'd gone through that experience and you'd done it once, like, we're definitely doing it again. And some of the things that resonate strongly from what we learn is Rhea teaches this concept of the cascade of interventions. So why is it that so many Australian kids born in hospital are born with unelected cesareans? And she argues it's pretty simple. Labor is extraordinarily painful. And when the pain is that high, and Loz openly admits this, she was at home, so there was not the same access to drugs as there is in a hospital. Whereas in a hospital, they're like, "Oh, hi, mom. Are you feeling okay? Would you like some drugs?" Like, "Give me the fucking drugs." And before you know it, there's an epidural, and then it's like, God, we got to get the tongs out and pull this baby out. And there's basically all these different things that are supposed to help with the childbirth, but really they are interventions. And before you know it, the baby, because they're constantly monitoring the baby's heartbeat, when the heartbeat becomes too fast and irregular, it's like, oh my God, the baby's struggling. We've got to get it out. Boom, C-section. And it's so scary how many women and the fathers that are there too have these extraordinarily traumatic labor experiences in modern hospitals. And it's due to, as she quite rightly says, this cascade of interventions. And so when you're at home, there's nothing to like take the pain away. You got to roll with it. You got to let nature take its course. And to some extent, you're kind of rolling the dice. But the medical system, it kind of I'm going to say it sells fear, but that's not quite right. It promotes fear and sells solutions to that. It's like, oh, it's unsafe to give birth at home. And Rhea's like, no, it's not. Look at all this information. It's clear. It shows it's not. And we've had 3 kids at home. It's absolutely not unsafe. It's a beautiful experience. And then she gave these comparisons about like, just look at other mammals. A cat, female cat will take itself off, hide under a bench somewhere, pitch black, middle of the night, and have 8 kittens. And it's kind of similar with female human beings, where it's like, make it nice and dark, nice and safe, their own space, and just kind of let them get on with it, right? You don't need to be the guy like hugging on her the whole time. Oh, well done, done. It's just get the fuck out of the way, and it will figure itself out. And when you go to a hospital, first of all, you've had to leave your home, and you're like, has my waters broken? Has the labor actually started? Where are the contractions? How dilated am I? You've had to get in a car to somehow travel to a hospital, and then the midwife you were previously dealing with isn't actually there, and so you now got this new random person. You've got all these bright lights everywhere. You've been scuttled into this room that you've never seen before, and it's just so obvious to me that the that you're a number on a piece of paper and they need that bed for the next person. It's all just this big kind of machine. And that's not to say that you can't or you shouldn't, go for the option of hospital. If that feels right to you, go for it. But what I'm trying to, I guess, explain through telling these stories is there are other options and we've got huge benefit out of them. I was inspired to talk about that because I finished an episode recently with a friend who told me that they were due. Number one was due, and I started prattling on about home births and whatever, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to go for it too." So I highly recommend that, and in particular the dads out there. Yes, your wife needs to be fully the one that makes this decision, but don't be the guy that's like, oh, I'm too scared if you do it in a hospital. Like, go and do the work. Read Rhea Dempsey's book. Find out why home birth is or isn't the right option and do something about it. And I feel very strongly that if you can have anything like the experiences that we've managed to have, it's a beautiful start to the life of a family.